Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 5 titled Truth just released on Disney Plus, and that's what I'm going to be reviewing in today's video. But before I get into that, I'm going to share some of my feelings on the series overall, and I'm going to start off with one thing. I guess I was wrong about John Walker. What's up, everybody? Trinity here. Welcome back to Second Street. Smash that like button like John Walker would if you crossed the GRC. Now, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Episode 5 just released, and we are going to get into a little bit of that. But first, I want to tell you about some of my feelings about this series overall. First of all, this series is kind of based on the Sam Wilson Captain America comic books, and these stories kind of went on at a time right before I got back into reading comic books, and these are some of the stories that got me back into reading comic books. The Sam Wilson Captain America, Steve Rogers Captain America was going on around the same time. It eventually led from Pleasant Hill into Civil War II and then into Secret Empire. Some pretty good stories. Now, not all of them are great. There's some stuff in there that's largely not all of it is some of the best material out there, but I have noticed here throughout this series that Kevin Feige, somebody that we all kind of trust in, has taken a lot of the elements from some of these series and taken some of the better elements and injected them into this show, that MCU mystery meat that they like to give us. And I think they've done a pretty good job here in this series overall. Kerry Skoglund doing the directing here, and Malcolm Spellman, who is the showrunner as well, they've just done a pretty good job with this series overall. Again, the writers as well, kind of taking a lot of the history of the MCU and bringing in a lot of the new elements and some of those elements from the comic books and doing a really good job of that. Now, speaking of some of the directing and some of those kinds of things, I think the series overall has been good on action. I think it could use a little bit more action. The drama has definitely been there. They've been doing kind of a lot of social commentary type of stuff where I think there are times where they've kind of laid it on almost a little bit thick, and the reason I say almost is because I think they were doing a pretty good job of doing it and not taking it too seriously. But then there was like one time where they really kind of did something and it almost seemed slapstick, and I felt like it took away from some of this stuff that they were getting at in episode 2. But overall, this series I think has done a really good job with the directing and everything going on. Now, that being said, getting here into episode 5, we know we've got one episode left after this, and it makes me question how long this last episode is going to be. This one was nearly 60 minutes. Now, by the time you minus out credits and everything, it's a few minutes shorter than that. But a lot happened in this episode, and it kind of really makes me think of last week they released that mid-season trailer, and we were talking. I was thinking about that. I know my friend Josh over at the Den of Nerds was kind of talking about that, like mid-season trailer. Like we're going into episode 5. There's 2 episodes left. We're beyond mid-season, but getting into this episode 5, you can kind of see why they would say that. The way this episode is paced and the things that happen in this episode actually, to me, really feel like, as we all know, a lot of the things that were originally planned for the show have kind of been gutted and they had to kind of do some rewrites. And I think we're really feeling that here through this, definitely through these first, like episode 3, 4, and now 5, where they kind of did a lot of that, because episode 5 really, to me, feels like it should be what episode 4 should have been. So many things happened in this episode that I feel like should have happened before right now in episode 5. Episode 5, we should have, got to where we got to in this episode, I guess, but I feel there should have been a little bit more leading up to that, because a lot of the edits and everything, I think these last couple of episodes have really suffered for that in that sense. And so it makes me question, how much they really did change and, what episode 6 is going to be like. But that's just like with some of the pacing and stuff with that. Again, that comes down to the directing too. I think they should have took some of that into consideration, especially with that original plot line that we know that they had to go back and rework. And hey, I understand. I'm sure everybody understands the reasons for that, but I think at the same time we're all kind of wondering what was really going on there with that. And hey, perhaps they could have left it in. Yeah, it might have. If they would have left a lot of the things that they probably had originally planned, sure. I mean, it might have looked about as good as John Walker looked to the U.S. government after what he did in episode 4. Am I right? So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Altogether, I thought this episode was pretty good. We start off with that intro fight scene right after the way episode 4 left off, with a really heavy emotion and tone. Like I'm saying, I was really deep in it at the end of episode 4, and this picks up right after all of those incidents, and you can kind of see everything that's going on. Tensions were certainly high, and here at the beginning here, this intro fight scene, we do see that the tensions are still running pretty high. John Walker is kind of in his own head. You can kind of see what he's going through after he took the serum and attacked that man and killed that man. And then we see Sam and Bucky go to him and confront him and try to take the shield, to which he don't want to give up. And this is something I was completely wrong about. Here I was thinking like they probably gonna have a little scuffle, and then you know what? John's gonna wise up, and he's gonna be like, okay, you know what? You're right. Here, take back the shield. I was totally wrong, dude. They duked it out. They had a pretty good battle, and very interesting to see that we see that John Walker with the serum was able to take on a Sam Wilson and Bucky at the same time, because we know Bucky has that serum coursing through his veins and his robot mind as well, right? Anyway, we see that they had a very great scuffle. Again, what they have kind of done throughout the series, paying homage to things that have come in the MCU before. Again, more images here, kind of reminiscent of what happened in Captain America: Civil War and some of those kinds of things. We see a lot of those visual cues taking place throughout this whole series. Really, we've seen a lot of callbacks to things that have happened just in the MCU overall, let alone the Captain America films, because that's kind of really who we're talking more a little bit about here. They end up getting the shield back from John Walker after breaking his arm, and it was quite the scuffle, and you could see there was some really cool stuff in there in the battle that had happened, some callbacks to even like the comic books when Sam Wilson was fighting with John Walker, and it was just some really cool stuff. Now, the thing I thought was really great was when they got to the end of the little battle there, and you seen Bucky. He picked up the shield, and for a second I thought like, man, is Bucky gonna take the shield? But he didn't. He walks over to Sam, who was really only standing feet away from the shield in the first place, and he looks at him, and he drops it. And he drops it, and he looks at Sam, and I kind of feel like he's looking at it and giving it to him in a way, saying almost like, I shouldn't be giving this back to you because you gave it up in the first place. And he kind of gives him that little scowl, but he's still kind of like, here you go. And just kind of like he's kind of fed up with the whole situation. Like he's done with it. He's ready to wash his hands of the whole situation. And then, well, we'll assume that he takes off and goes they all go their separate ways here. Now we see flash to the next scene where we see Joaquin come in. Torres, the army is there. They've kind of got everything, the scene roped off as they're doing their investigations and everything. And we see a nice little, just a little conversation here with Joaquin and Sam Wilson. Now, in the comic books, Joaquin Torres actually ended up becoming Falcon through some experiments that were run on him by Dr. Carl Malice, who is who's being controlled by like the power broker. Anyway, the point here is we see in this scene, we get to, by the end of it, we see that Joaquin Torres gets a pair of broken wings. And, Sam Wilson is probably sitting there like, God, who was that back in the day that sung that one song? Take these broken wings and learn to... You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it was pretty cool little scene. I mean, just again paying some homage to the comic books while again not following it. Like, now this is something again I said that I've enjoyed, because not all the stuff in the some of the comic book stuff is zany in the first place, but they are taking a lot of those elements and kind of injecting them. So I'm guessing we're going to get a callback here, especially considering we all already know there's been kind of this assembling of other characters out there, like, you know, we've seen even Elijah Bradley in this, or yeah, Elijah Bradley here in this series as well. So, but more on that in just a few minutes. But then we get to America, and we get back to seeing John Walker going to trial, to his tribunal, where they are sitting there talking to him and saying that he's going to be other than honorably discharged. They didn't necessarily say dishonorably discharged. They're taking his record into consideration, and he's sitting there arguing with them about the ruling, and he's saying, no, like, you can't let me go, I am Captain America. And they're saying this isn't an argument, you know, we're not here to debate about this. We've taken your record and everything into consideration. Now, the one thing I will say I was right about John Walker here was the fact that you see him kind of falling apart. You see that coming apart there, where he is working for the U.S. government, and that's what he's saying. He's like, you trained me, you made me who I am. I do what you ask of me to do. I only did things you trained me to do. What I did is what you trained me to do. They just got done killing. They're terrorists. They just got done killing my best friend, my partner, and a member of the U.S. military. I am Captain America, right? He feels righteous. He feels justified in that. And by all means, I think that, you know, there's a lot of people out there that would probably not say that he's justified in it, but there's a lot of people out there that would feel that if they had the same ability and the same means, which is exactly a conversation that Lamar and John had before all of this happened, that they would do the same thing. So again, there's all this kind of these moral debates and everything to be had there. Was what John Walker did right? Absolutely not. But you can see that even the government, you know, like, even they're kind of wanting to wash their hands of it, even though John Walker is right. That is exactly what they trained him to do. That's the kind of stuff that is expected of him as a soldier. So why not as Captain America? They chose him as Captain America, right? And now they're choosing to take it back. And they wanted the shield back, to which he doesn't have. And they're telling him, well, you better use some expediency and recover it. So they're still kind of, while they, or they didn't even say to recover, they said to return it, because they don't know that he don't have it, it would appear. Then we get the scene right there after his little trial. And again, I was wrong, man. I seriously, I thought John Walker, you know what? He's going to recognize. Maybe he will by the end of the series. But then we get this right there after that, and we get this scene, you know, with John Walker and his wife there. And is it just me? Am I the only one that thinks, like, why did they get this actress who looks like AOC? Is that just me? But anyway, we see that there's this scene there where they are there after the trial, kind of talking and everything, and you can see John's kind of in his head about it too, and you know, he's like, "Hey, I'm Captain America. Like, I'm only doing what they asked me to do. This is what my job. This is what they tasked me to do. This is what they trained me to do." You know, like, he's kind of like he don't get it. But then we get a cameo. We get a cameo from a character, a very interesting character here, who, you know, a lot of people may not know. I mean, I can't remember her. What was her name? La Contessa, Valentina de la Fontaine, something, I don't know, Allegra, I don't know, something like that. Better known as Madam Hydra in the comic books, though I don't feel like they're going to go that direction here in the MCU, because she does have other history in the or not in the MCU, but in the Marvel comics, as like working with Nick Fury and the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I won't confess to know about her designation or anything like that. But for the sake of everything, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to call her Madam Hydra, okay? It's Madam Hydra. And it was very interesting. She comes in there and has this conversation, and she's talking about some of these different things, like, oh, like, the only reason you're facing is because, like, these guys got money on the line. It looks bad. Like, they're not even mad at you. They kind of feel like you did the right thing, which is something I've actually been talking about here, which is why I wasn't thinking that he was going to face the repercussions of his actions, because I kind of felt exactly like John Walker did, in the sense that, not that he was right, but in the fact that that's what they trained him to do. That's what they expected him to do. That's everything. Everything that he said, he is 100% correct on. That is what they expected of him. Right? However, the one thing that he's probably not taking into consideration is that in most places, when he would be at war for the government doing those kinds of things, wouldn't end up in a place where he's in a Times Square kind of area, in this little city with a bunch of people around with cameras sitting there watching him brutally murder an unarmed man. Right? So, they're kind of hoping that you would take that into consideration, but they also don't take into consideration that this is a yes man, right? Very interesting stuff. But then, like I said, Madam Hydra's there she's sitting there, or I can't remember. You know what her name is. You know what her name is. Don't she's like everybody, like, I know who she is. I'm not very familiar with all of the history of this character and everything in the comic books. I'm going to be honest with you, but she's there, and seeing her there kind of represents a lot of stuff. Seeing this cameo, there's a lot of things that could come out of this. Julia Louis-Dreyfus coming in, doing a great job playing this character off. How she's kind of sinister, kind of cynical, kind of brushing off AOC and continuing with John Walker, and she's there to help him. Well, what is she there to help him with? It's very interesting. Is that not? Is it not very interesting? I mean, maybe talk a little bit more about that later if you want. Let me know any of your theories or anything down in the comments below. But if you ask me, I kind of think that, Madam Hydra being there, she's talking to John Walker, talking about all these things that are kind of going on there. And, it kind of makes me feel like this is probably the beginning of the Thunderbolts, right? Is this, I don't know. It could just be me. I know that's not necessarily how it went down in the comics, but we all know that MCU mystery meat that Kevin Feige likes to whip up and give us. And that's kind of just what I was thinking there with that. I know it seemed like a small little thing, and, it doesn't seem like much, but I think that's actually, there's probably some big implications there, having her show up there to help John Walker. Anyway, it's a little bit weird. It's just a little bit weird. So then we get into these next scenes where we flash back to Sokovia, and we see that we see Zemo there visiting his family memorial there, and we see that Bucky actually goes to confront him. They have a little conversation, and just, I don't know, kind of interesting little conversation they have there. And this is when, the Dora Milaje end up showing back up to take Zemo, and they say that they're going to take Zemo back to the raft, which I think was very interesting altogether, because one of the things I've been talking about here is I kind of feel like one of the things that they wanted to do is, since he's broken out, is they still want to take him to Wakanda to face Wakandan justice. And believe me, by all means, I don't think they want to murder him and kill him, because they know that's not going to bring back their king. But he should face the punishment for his crimes, and they're going to take him there to live out the rest of his days in the raft. I just thought that was very interesting, and it makes me wonder then if maybe Wakanda is helping out the government with the raft and stuff like that. I mean, they get some of their technology. Otherwise, it seems a little bit odd. I know they're part of the Sokovia Accords and stuff like that, but I don't know. I just thought that was a little, I just, but altogether some cool stuff, especially here in this scene as we see Ao talking to Bucky. And she's telling him, like, hey, he turned over Zemo, and he's like, hey, here you go. And she's like, hey, maybe you should make yourself scarce in Wakanda. It's all good, homie, but like, you're kind of not welcome here. Like, if you like need something, like, probably, but like for the most part, like, It's over, bro. It's over. And he's like, and he even tells him, he's like, it's fair enough. And before they leave, he's like, but I've got one more favor to ask of you, you know. And so he had just one more favor that he wanted to ask him. Very, very interesting, considering what we get ready to see here in the next handful of minutes. After these next couple of scenes, because the next scene we see that Sam Wilson is actually going back to see Isaiah Bradley's walking up the street, and he ends up running into Isaiah's nephew. And they get there. He gets there and starts talking to him. Now, I think there's some very interesting stuff going on here. A lot of the stuff they've done with the social commentary throughout this series has been, like I said earlier, at times it's been really good, and at times they've done some things that I kind of feel like that took some of the weight off of what they were trying to do. Like it kind of cheapened it in a way. But then here I really feel with this Isaiah Bradley scene and this scene with him and Sam Wilson, this conversation they have was a very, very great scene, because there's a lot of things that I would take away from this. But Isaiah Bradley goes and talks to him and tells Sam Wilson about everything that happened to him, how he was in lockup, his wife, his sweetie pie, who was sending him letters that they wouldn't let go through or anything like that. He was a prisoner, how just all of the terrible things that they did to him, right? And he was telling Sam, he's like, hey, bro, like if you ain't like, what was he said, if you ain't sour, you ain't or something like that, you ain't if you ain't bitter, you're blind, or something like that. He said something. But the thing is Sam Wilson is sitting there listening to his story, and Sam Wilson gets it. And I think a lot of people out there kind of get it. When you see what Isaiah Bradley is there talking about how he was basically used, abused, and brushed off to the side, and basically labeled a criminal. But he was basically he was helped. He was helped by somebody, and he basically became non-existent by he was dead. So some very interesting things there with that. Now, one of the things that I think definitely with the social commentary they've been kind of doing in this throughout this series, I think is something very interesting that Sam Wilson has been trying to do, and I think really takes place in the scenes. Now, I know you could probably interpret what happened in these scenes a lot of ways. But even Sam Wilson was sitting there a couple of times, tells Isaiah hey man, he called him the bitter old man, and he's like, kind of like, it's time to move on, it's time to move on. And he was some very interesting stuff there with Isaiah Bradley too, because he was sitting there talking about the stars and stripes that don't mean nothing to me. And I think very interesting if you ask me, because I mean, obviously he's living there in America and everything, but those stars and stripes don't mean nothing to him, right? If you ask me, I'll say one thing right now. I mean, I know this is probably going to get some dislikes, but nationalism is weird. All right, it's just a little bit weird. I know, maybe I'm getting a little too personal. Maybe I'm getting a little too political though. But seriously though, nationalism, it's a little weird. It's a little weird. I mean, I love America and I love living in America, but all the stuff we see go hey, nationalism is weird, bro. Okay. Anyway, that's so some of the thought process of Isaiah Bradley I get, and I think Sam definitely understands a lot of it. And this what's going on in these scenes is exactly why Sam Wilson is going to be Captain America in the next movie or show that we see him in, because in the scenes he's sitting there listening to everything that Isaiah Bradley has to say, and he feels bad for him. He gets it. He understands the story. He understands the struggle of being a black man in America, let alone a black superhero. And let alone being given that shield and trying to live up to the mantle of Captain America. He already called him a bitter old man, and he's trying to tell him, he's like, it can change, it's time to move on, Isaiah. We can do better. And Isaiah's sitting there telling him, no, bro, you don't get it. But I feel at the same time what Sam Wilson is doing is understanding him, relating to him, and at the same time he's sitting there still feeling the same way, I get you, Isaiah Bradley, but just like everything else, it's time to let go of those old ways. We cannot forget our history while we're moving forward. It's important to remember that history, absolutely, but we've got to move on. I really feel that's how what Sam Wilson was trying to get across in a lot of these conversations and stuff that happened here in this series. Kind of, and it's something that I think, like a conversation that, I think needs to be had by a lot of people. Like, we cannot forget our history, our tragic history of everything that has happened in real life. But at some point, we're going to have to take that history and hold on to it and move forward with it. That's not, you got to move forward. We can heal from this stuff, right? You've kind of got to let it go. You got to let it go, but still hold on to it. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if that really makes a lot of sense, because you don't want to forget that history, but you still kind of got to let it go to move past it so we can all move on. Because you can't move on until everybody's ready to move on, and I really feel that's something that they did in this particular episode with that conversation with Sam Wilson and Isaiah Bradley. Absolutely great stuff, acknowledging all of that past, all of that history, and knowing that we can't forget it. And it's something that's echoed in a scene, just in the very next scene as well, where we see that Sam Wilson ends up going back home, and he calls in a bunch of favors and gets a lot of people there. They have this nice little montage. Everybody comes in and helps fix the family ship and everything so they can continue their business. He calls in a lot of favors because, their family, the Wilson family, has done a lot for the people of the community there where they live at. And there's this nice little montage scene that really, honestly, belongs in episode 4, right? Belongs in episode 4. Anyway, again, some of the edits and stuff here, but again, it's something that's reflected here in this scene, because by the time we get to the end of it, they take and they basically rehab this. They pimp my ride of their boat, and Sam's getting ready to go paint over the boat and paint over their history, and that's exactly what they were. Exactly another scene going back into it where he's like, they're like, we can't let go of this. This is our history. We cannot let go of this. Again, reflected here, saying we cannot let go, but we've got this. We've got this piece of our history, and we can move forward. We can move forward, and we can do better. And I, Sam Wilson, am the man that can do it. Something that was shown in the last scene, and again reinforced here, that Sam Wilson is that person who can take on this weight and be that person to help people, bring people together and help them move forward, right? As that symbol, which is very, very interesting, because while all of this is going on, Bucky shows up, right? Bucky shows up, and he has this case for him. This case for Sam Wilson, this mysterious case. What's in the case, guys? Obviously, we know he got it from Wakanda, some Wakandan tech, but what's in the case already? Do you know? Do you know what's in that case? I have a feeling I know what's in that case. But do you? We'll talk a little bit more about that here by the end of the video. But so then we get this scene here where we see John Walker then going to the family, the Hoskins family, Lamar Hoskins family, after he was kind of said, like, even his wife told him, like, hey, you need to go talk to his family, like help them heal and get past some of this stuff as well. And plus, you were his best friend, they need to hear from you. So he goes to them. And this is something else, man, when it comes to John Walker, where you can see that he is very flawed in his logic and everything he's talking about. Because even in that tribunal, he was talking about, and he lied, saying that this man was the man that killed his partner, when it was not actually that man. He was actually only part of the terrorist organization that done it. It was Carly. But hey, he lied. He did not tell the truth. He was lying about that. And we see that he continues that lie when he goes to see and give closure to the Hoskins family. And they're sitting there, and they're just sitting there talking and everything. And it's a pretty emotional scene, but I feel the weight of it is not quite so heavy, because you and I know that John Walker is sitting there lying. And there's even a look that the sister is giving John Walker that whole time, where it almost kind of says, like, yeah, John Walker, we know you're lying, bro. We know it wasn't really that guy. You're saying that to cover your ass, aren't you? And he says and reassures them that it was this man. And like I said, you could see the sigh of relief, but I kind of still feel like the sister did have that there. And you could see that he was still weighted down by the weight of his lies in telling them that he actually had had actually killed the right man when he knew he was lying. He knew he was lying, and just interesting, he's seeing he's going down the street and everything like that. So you can see that he's really doing all the things. He's being dishonest, and he's not doing the things that he knows he should be doing. Again, this is Lamar Hoskins, we all know, was kind of his moral grounding here, and that's gone now. And you can see that he is kind of getting caught in this sort of web of lies, if you will. Dare I say that? Anyway, so then we get this nice little scene from Sharon Carter, the power broker, right? Isn't Sharon the power broker? You think that she is, but I really don't feel that way. You see that she's sitting there getting these phone calls. She's wanting to get basically her record cleared so she can go back to America, see her family and stuff like that. But you see, she's been making a life for herself there in Madripoor, doing all her black market dealings and stuff, but she has a little bit more than that. And here I really feel like they're trying to lead us to believe that she's the power broker. We see that she actually has a conversation with who we're all going to assume is Batroc, who we see later at the end of this episode. She's kind of calling in a favor, if you will. And I honestly don't think that Sharon Carter is the power broker. Is she doing shady stuff? Maybe some, obviously she's doing some illegal activities, but as far as doing things like being a criminal against any kind of real, how would you say, the governments and stuff, I don't think she's out there doing those kinds of things in that sense. More so anything just to maybe save her ass in a lot of stuff. But then right after that, after this little scene there with Sharon Carter, we get this nice little scene where Bucky is waking up back on the Wilson family farm. There, it's really a farm. I guess it's not really a farm, but the Wilson family house plot. Wilson, you know what I'm saying. You see him waking up, and he kind of wakes up, and he sees Sam's nephews sitting there. And I thought this was a very great and interesting scene because they're sitting there playing with the shield like they're the hero, like they're the Captain America. And I thought this was a very interesting scene because, again, this has to do with, that history, taking and holding on to it, and yet taking and holding on to it and being able to move on and heal and move forward, right? I feel that's something that was going on again in this scene, because you see the kids there, they see the shield and they're still proud of it and they still want to be Captain America. And one of the things I was talking about, especially after episode 4, is you see where everybody's talking about, oh, the shield is tainted now, get rid of it, it needs to be destroyed. But one of the things I was saying is I really feel like some of that symbolism is really there to show us that the shield, something meant to protect you, in the wrong hands or even the right ones, can be used as a weapon. It can be used for bad. It's not about the weapon, it's about the person wielding it. And I thought that's something that they did really good here in this nice little scene, because you see, and it makes you look at that, and this shield is all shiny and clean again, and they're giving that back. They're making you feel and welcome that shield back in. Again, I think this was something very symbolic of some of the stuff they have done in this episode. Like I said, taking, not forgetting, and holding on to that path, letting it go and just not forgetting and carrying it, and maybe letting it be your shield. Right? I don't know. I could be wrong. Let me know down in the comments below. Yeah, I'm sure I've already gotten plenty of dislikes by some of the stuff I've said. Oh, that crazy nationalism. Anyway, so yeah, then we see the little training montage that Sam Wilson has there. He's sitting there talking with Bucky. They talk about the shield being co-workers and just kind of their working relationship here as well. Because by all means, both of these guys were kind of sidekicks of Steve Rogers, where you can see that Sam Wilson is actually really stepping into the leadership role. He's going to end up being Captain America by the end of this series with that Shield. And I think that's kind of what they were talking about. We see the little training montage, which I thought was really great. We see Sam back out there running. He's training with the shield. He's doing his flips. He's doing all that kind of stuff, doing the training and everything that he needs to get ready. Now, again, another montage here. And again, I got to say, just with everything that's happened in the series, it makes me question what that next episode 6 is going to be like, how long it's going to be. Mid-season trailer, because this really feels like this is stuff that like it should have happened earlier. If it's gonna happen, like all these training montages should have happened earlier, which makes me question, like all the rewrites and everything. This really feels like stuff that should have happened in episode 4, according to just the numbering of these episodes coming out here, more so than like the length of everything. I feel like all this stuff shouldn't be in an act 3, which was, if you go by the numbering system, I got 6 episodes, you got it right. First act, second act, right. You got me. I'm sure you got me. I feel like this is stuff that should have been happening in episode 4. But again, maybe you can see this episode was longer, and maybe episode 6 is going to be a little bit longer. But again, a cool little training montage there with Sam Wilson as well. And then we flash to the Flagsmashers, who are there in New York, and we see they have a little conversation. You can tell that Desmond Cham, I can't remember his character's name, that he's sitting there talking to Carly, and he's sitting there kind of questioning what it is that they are doing, and kind of, just because they're taking a little bit extreme. And you see that Batroc ends up showing up here. Interesting, because Sharon Carter just had a conversation with him, we're going to assume. But, okay, we all know it was. And so he's sitting there, and, Batroc walks up, and he's like, oh, so we're working with criminals now? And she's like, hey, haven't you heard, bro? We are criminals. And, hey, I guess it took her that long to realize, or maybe he didn't know. I mean, again, this is something reflecting exactly what was going on in this series, where these people think that they're doing right, and they're trying. Again, it comes down to trying to do right, right? Trying. They're not doing right. They're attempting to, but they're going about it in all the wrong ways. And so, very interesting there as we see Batroc showing up. Batroc brings them this case that has some high-tech gear in there. Now, where did he get this gear? Are we going to assume that it was from Sharon Carter, the power broker? I think, man, it feels so much like they just want us to believe that I can't believe that it is. Now, I do think that we see him deliver these weapons, and by all means, he's there, obviously, to help. I think we're going to see him in episode 6. He said that he don't want to be part of their theatrics or whatever's going on, and she's like, hey, don't even trip. Just hang out. We'll be all good. And he's like, I'm not here to be part of your experiment, And so very interesting stuff here. And I think this is all kind of stuff that, we're going to see those favors that Sharon Carter had called into him in episode 6. Now, so I think, but was that her that gave her the weapon? I know, like I said, I feel like they're really just trying to get us to believe that she is Sharon Carter, or that she's the power broker, that Sharon Carter is the power broker. But anyway, I don't know. I just don't really feel that she is. And then we see that there is actually the Flagsmashers actually go and to the GRC where they are putting this vote up. They actually go there and they start an attack on this facility. And what's going to happen from here? I guess we don't know, because this is where the episode ends up at, is with the Flagsmashers there attacking the GRC building, and this is leading into our episode 6, which is going to be absolutely great. But let's not forget about that mid-credit scene, right? Ooh, what about that? Oh, wait. Before we get into that mid-credit scene, I forgot the one thing. That last scene, right? And this is what I wanted to get back to. I almost forgot. How could I forget? That very last scene there with Sam Wilson, as he goes and he opens up that case. What's in that case, guys? What is in that case? I want to know what you think. Let me know. I mean, obviously, we know Bucky called in a favor. We know he brought that case from Wakanda, right? We know that Bucky is taking a new set of wings to Sam Wilson. It's what it's got to be, right? You think it's got the suit in there? You think? one of the things I've been theorizing since before this series even premiered and came out is that I think this series is going to be telling us the story of Sam Wilson, Falcon, growing into the role of Captain America. And by the end of this series, we will see him in that suit carrying that shield. We will see Sam Wilson, Captain America, at the end of the series. And I think that's exactly what is in that case, is that Captain America suit. He's going to be sitting there donning it as they go to protect and stop the attack at the GRC building, where we know that John Walker is going to end up showing up with his own shield that we seen him making there in that bonus in that post credit scene. Some very interesting stuff there. You see that he took that metal and he sat there and he welded it on there, and you see that that John Walker was sitting there and welding and making his own shield. And this is something that has happened in the comics as well, but very interesting, because I remember when that trailer came out earlier this week as well. We seen that there was those lines on the shield, and you could tell they were weld lines. And we see that John Walker, he is Captain America. He's not giving up that mantle. He's not giving up the shield. Very interesting what we're getting ready to go into in episode 6. I don't know, but that's what I think. That's what I've thought about this series so far. Again, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. I've really been enjoying this series overall. Again, you can tell where a lot of this has been stripped and gutted. The storylines, the plot lines, the way it's all been chopped up, and everything has kind of happened here in the series. It's been kind of sloppy up to this point. I think even this kind of adds to that sloppiness, but this, the series has done pretty well considering all of those things that they've done together. It's been kind of a jumbled mess. Like I said, this episode really feels like it should have been in episode 4, a lot of this, and you know, episode 6, I'm looking forward to the fireworks and a very big finale. But I don't know, I guess that's just if you ask me. Again, let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below. But that's all I have for this video today, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning into the Second Street Marvel. If you're not already, please make sure you're subscribed, click the little bell and all of that good stuff. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it, give it a thumbs down if you don't. It's okay, you're not gonna hurt my little feelings. But while you're at it, make sure that you're subscribed and share this. Oh, did I already do that? I did already do that. Share this video with a friend and invite them to come hang out with us here on the Second Street Marvel. You all have a very good day, and we'll see you in the next video.